Anvit and Arunima join us. Anvit, you've been down on ground and you've seen all of it. But that last stand-up that you did was 300 meters from the Nepal border. And you see Pakka constructions there. And you are saying there are people who claim to be living there for decades. And the agencies do not trust that their activities are above board. But the agencies have not removed them. If it's no man's land, how is it being occupied? Do they have legal title to that land?
Yes, so Anand, that was where I was just 300 meters away from border. But to our surprise, I even went just at the border, and just you won't believe it, just 100 meters away from there, where there are kacha settlements, just cluster settlements. Just 50 meters or 100 meters away from there are pakka houses which these people have built. Now, this is what the security agencies say, that initially they settle into these cluster settlements and gradually they move out of it once their Aadhaar cards, ration card and voter IDs are made. Then they move out into the mainland from no man's land, and then they settle into pakka houses. Many of the houses there were under construction. Many of the mosques we saw were under construction, and that is where they take initial refuge, and then they move into the mainland, and then they get their houses built. Many of these clusters, all of these constructions are illegal. There have not been any administrative crackdown. There has not been any survey to find out whether these are encroachments or whether they have property documents or not. There has been no effort by the state government, and that is the result why over the decades number of these settlements on this particularly Simanchal belt that shares international border with Nepal has continued to rise. And this is also a concern for the security agencies, because they say that this rising number of people who are not Indians, who are foreign nationals, either Bangladeshis, Nepalese, Rohingyas, whoever they are, they come into India through agents. They pay locals who had been living there for decades. They get their documents made, they get seated into the existing families, and then they become unidentifiable. Now, these security agencies, the biggest concern is that these people, once they get their documents, they move to the other parts of the country.
Right.
We have also seen in Delhi how they indulge into crime. Over time, many Bangladeshis have been arrested. Last year, a Rohingya was also charge-sheeted. It was found that he had built fake documents, and then he had been living in Uttar Pradesh, Deoband, for 3 years in a mosque. So they are given refuge, and that is how they are more and more of them are coming into regularly. Now, not only state government but also central agencies have been keeping an eye on them. And when we spoke to some of the intelligence agency officials, they said that they keep getting regular input about this. But because there has not been any major crackdown by state government or state police, that is the reason why such a glaring lapse has not come to fore, unless and until we went down and we found that these glaring lapses on ground. When we spoke to some officials in Bihar off camera, they told us this, they get such inputs. They have also found that there are some gangs operating which get their fake documents made, and that is how this entire nexus is working, because they are getting aid, they are getting funds. Earlier, like Arunima also mentioned, they have been getting financial funds from be it Turkey or Qatar or wherever. So, and these mosques and madrasas, which officials said that they have grown in this belt by 35%. These are the places where all these funds come from and then are distributed to people who work on ground for them.
True. Now, Arunima, you've also been speaking to sources within the Home Ministry and within those who are supposed to keep close tabs on as far as internal security is concerned. This is a huge matter of concern. This land does not belong to them. They've got pakka structures. They come here as illegals. They're trying to embed themselves in our society. But more importantly, they've now got access to funds, and there are people who are helping them, either within the security establishment or outside as far as political and social organizations who are giving them cover fire.
See, trafficking is not a new worry. This has been going on for decades now. The agencies are aware of that. The worry now is that trafficking is now taking another dimension. People of Bangladeshi origin, people who are being labeled Rohingyas, even Nepal, which is supposed to be a Hindu Rashtra, there is a growth of Muslim populated colonies on the Indo-Nepal border on the Nepal side. This is what agencies are suspecting. And the number of mosques and madrasas which are coming up. Of course, if the population grows, they would want a place to pray. They would want their children to get their religious education. But the suspicion is that the population to madrasa ratio, population to masjid ratio is quite high compared to what this ratio is in the rest of the country. The fear therefore being that somebody is trying to ensure that these migrants are radicalized and they're then recruited for a cause which is not positive for India's interest. Of course, PFI is a suspect, is a number one suspect, especially after the crackdown that we saw recently. After speaking to SSB, intelligence agencies and Bihar police, we learned that PFI wanted to do a mega show of strength in 2023, and therefore perhaps this design to try and recruit as many people, be it Bangladeshis, be it Rohingyas, and then do a show of strength and thereby get more people to come to their cause. What is the ultimate reason why PFI wants to recruit so much? What exactly is the plan that they have in mind? That conspiracy is still unfolding. But it is true that in Bihar Police's investigation, it has come up that arms training, lathi training, sword training was being given to these recruits. If they are Indians, if they have friends and family here, perhaps it would be a little more difficult to radicalize them or to get them to do any act of violence. But if these are people who have no direct connection with this land and with the people of this country, agencies are worried and they're suspicious. Will they then be used as sleeper cells and direct recruits if a terror conspiracy is ultimately worked out?
Did you find people who did not seem to be locals but claimed to be locals there, Anvit?
See, we went to many areas which are known by locals to be Bangladeshi colonies, and when we went there, we asked them off camera or maybe during a sting, we asked them, where do you belong to? They said that we belong to Katiyar, Araria, Supal. They took different names, but obviously we couldn't ask them to show documents, because whenever an outsider goes there and asks them to show documents, they, he's being looked upon as a suspicious person. But when we spoke to locals, they told us that this particular area, wherever we went in the colonies, because these Bangladeshis come in and settle in colonies, and these colonies are known by locals to be Bangladeshi colony. They call it Bangladeshi Tola, they call it Bengali Tola, because Tola is known as a cluster settlement. So they call it Bengali Tola. Then there are various Bengali Tolas in Araria, in Jogbani, in Bela, wherever we traveled across the international border. And there are various such colonies. We went there, we spoke to people, and when we spoke to them casually, they said that some of them told us that they belong to Katiyar. They took different names. But when you ask them to show documents, some of them have documents, but many of them are living there without any documents. It just, all what is needed is just a crackdown on them, and the agencies will find themselves that many of them don't have any documents to show.
Now, if they don't have documents to show, what are they doing? And how is it that our establishment and our forces are allowing such people? Yes, it's an open border, but that's between India and Nepal. It's not for Bangladeshis, Rohingyas and non-Nepalis, non-Indians to come there and settle there and with an ulterior motive or design. Arunima and Anvit, thank you for your inputs, and we will take